Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RevOps Demos That Don't Suck. I am your co-host, Matthew Baum, CEO and founder of RevOps Co-op, a global community of 15,000 plus revenue operators from all over the globe. Today, I'm sitting down with Fullcast, and Fullcast is the go-to-market cloud. But I'm going to let Celena tell us a little bit more about yourself and add anything to the company introduction as well before I start peppering you with questions about the Fullcast platform.
Thank you for the intro, Matt. Excited to be part of the RevOps AF demos. I am Celena, an enterprise sales director here at Fullcast. It's been a wonderful year with the Fullcast team, about my 6th or 7th year in the software space for Salesforce using companies, and it's been quite the journey. At Fullcast, we are a go-to-market cloud, solving a gap that I've seen as a seller in the space, which is go-to-market planning and management. So Fullcast is a go-to-market cloud helping with a number of RevOps responsibilities, including territory management, quota management, capacity planning, and routing. Excited to talk more about that and show you a little bit of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I always like to start first with the problem before we dive into the solution and see how it can help folks in RevOps. So let's start with the problem. You mentioned a couple of things there that are obviously very important to people who work in revenue operations, territory management, quota, capacity planning. But first, talk about what life looks like for revenue operators in a world before the Fullcast platform. What are the problems that they have within those specific areas that you all are solving for? What does their day to day or week to week look like? What problems are they experiencing that you all help solve?
Yeah, great question. Love to start with the problem. I think that's what we're really focused on, is providing a solution, something to improve what RevOps are already spending so much of their time doing today. And it touches on our founding story. So our founders were actually leading global RevOps at Salesforce when they built Fullcast. And so what their day-to-day looked like and what a typical RevOps person's day-to-day looks like without something like Fullcast is managing the annual plan that they spent months putting together the year before. Typically, RevOps teams spend roughly 6 months or so, depending on the size of the organization, of course. But let's say in a larger team with a larger sales team, you might be starting to plan for the upcoming year around July, August, September, and spend half of your year planning for what's to come in the year ahead. And what I mean by that is territories, quotas, capacity, really digging into spreadsheets, pivot tables. We mostly see this done in spreadsheets. There might be some teams trying to leverage different tools like ERP platforms, HR systems, finance systems, marketing and sales systems. And we saw that as a problem. Like, why is RevOps, which is such a powerful component of any organization, stuck using other teams' platforms? Why don't they have their own platform to get done what they need to get done? And that really centers around making sure the team is ready for the upcoming year. They're ready to hit that revenue target that they've been given, and they're orchestrating their most foundational resources, which are their accounts and data and the CRM and their sales team, around success and orchestrating them to hit their targets and exceed them. So they're stuck using other teams' platforms, and Fullcast is here to say, well, RevOps is doing a lot of work that takes several months and it overall impacts your bottom line. So why can't there be a platform that makes their life easier, gets them out of manually updating spreadsheets all day and living in a world of disjointedness between multiple platforms?
Yeah, it makes sense. I know in the past I've lived in plenty of spreadsheets around a whole slew of different things. It's painful, it's manual, it's time consuming. It takes you away from those strategic, more value add elements of the role. With that in mind, you brought up different pieces of the Fullcast solution and how it can help folks in RevOps from territory management, quota and capacity planning and beyond. So maybe give us an overview of the different components of the Fullcast platform. And then why don't you share your screen and walk us through, I think the one that you're going to dive into is around territory management and territory design.
Awesome. Let's do that. Just to summarize the pains we're looking to solve for here, really the time spent on annual planning and managing that plan during the year. As soon as one rep leaves or gets promoted or a new product line is added, that plan becomes nullified or there's a drift from what you were expecting. So really trying to help with the time saving, but also the proactivity of your TAM coverage, making sure your total addressable market is totally addressed all the time. And lastly, we really want to help with the overall scalability, consistency of the team, and making sure that everything stays aligned with that plan that you've spent a lot of time making. To your point, Matt, we've got a number of components to help. We're going to spend most of our time on territories today, and I'm going to start sharing my screen with you all. So in territory management, we're doing a number of things. Not only are we trying to help you create the territories, but we want to help make sure they stay balanced throughout the year. Another big pain that we see come up in conversations, this looks different at different companies, of course, but rep attrition. Are our top reps happy? Do they feel they're set up for continued success? Do they feel that their territory is equal and balanced and fair, that they're getting an even number of inbound leads compared to other reps, that their quota makes sense with the book of business they've been given? So territory management is a powerful component to say, here are the accounts you have in your total addressable market. Here is your company's segmentation on the left-hand side. We see industries, size of companies, we see geographies coming into play here, completely customizable, but we're trying to say, here's your total addressable market, and here are your sales resources. How are we going to put them together in an optimized way that ensures we're not only taking into account the patterns and the data that you have in your Salesforce, but we're taking into account what the future should look like and what the next steps should look like for the organization. So territory management is really powerful. You're not only able to see what things look like in their current state, but you're able to see what they would look like in a proposed state. Maybe a sales manager has an idea to move things around, so you can easily see what is today and what is the proposed state. And really, the power of Fullcast here is to be a real-time solution for you. We are a managed package in Salesforce. And what that means is as your data changes, as your headcount changes, we don't want you to be living in a world of dated territories because people have gotten promoted, opportunities have been closed won, a whole lot of things have changed in the data set that now impact what your current state of or territories are. Fullcast wants to manage that for you. So you'll start to see yellow dots emerging saying, hey, you've told us your policy-based rules around how your territories are set up, but data has changed, things have changed, and we actually think that accounts need to be moved to a different place because of the policies you had in place. You can see that they're suggesting some accounts get moved from Enterprise 5 to Enterprise 1 or to the far west, maybe due to address data changing or headcount data changing. So really, Fullcast is your partner, it's your co-pilot as you go through the year saying, hey, I just spent months with my team building out the right plan for us. And no matter what changes throughout the year, we want to stay aligned to this plan. And Fullcast is that tool to make sure that you are staying on track, your reps are well equipped for success, and that you are going to hit your number. And you can actually prove it to your C-level with the right data and the right reports from Fullcast.
So first question, you mentioned this Salesforce integration that y'all are managed package on Salesforce. Do you have other integrations that you support as well outside of Salesforce?
One of our largest customers is a Microsoft Dynamics user. We've been able to flex this to other CRMs if the partnership makes sense. We have a
Yeah.
fantastic engineering and product team. And we try not to be limited in that sense, but we do have scheduled import-export jobs for teams that really leverage a BI solution, maybe a Snowflake, a Tableau during these processes. So it's very easy for us to get data in and out of those platforms once we set up those jobs. The managed package approach is because most companies are basing this off Salesforce. So we want to make sure the data is coming in and out of Salesforce regularly. We are continuing to build out integrations with HR systems to support our capacity plans, like with Workday. But really, because of our native Salesforce infrastructure, it allows us to indirectly integrate with multiple platforms. For example, if you're using Fullcast for routing, which is one of our strengths, on top of territory management, let's say a lead gets routed to this person's name because they own the territory. Maybe you guys use SalesLoft or Clary or Outreach for reaching out to folks. we can leverage that Salesforce nativity to put them in a cadence in one of those platforms, for example. So it's really nice to have that managed package in Salesforce because it allows us to work effectively with any of your other platforms that integrate with Salesforce.
So you mentioned the Salesforce integration, the ability to integrate with other tools like Dynamics, scheduled import export jobs as well. Do folks need their data set up in a certain or specific way around territories and maybe how they're carving them today in order to be successfully integrated into the Fullcast platform? Or are you able to make changes as well to territories? I see the setup here is by geography and the vertical changes you make in Fullcast. Do those make their way back into Salesforce or the other tool? How does that stuff work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everyone's first thought when they see Fullcast is my data ready for this? And the answer is yes, because you're already carving territories off the data you have. It's not like you're not carving territories today. So Fullcast really just needs you to have an idea of what is my ICP, what is my addressable market. Typically, those are the most foundational things you already have in Salesforce, such as account names, company size. We see a lot of folks leveraging a DNB or a Zoom Info, Apollo, or something of that nature to help populate their CRM. And even
Yep.
that baseline level of data is plenty for Fullcast. A lot of times companies look to us as a partner in their data quality improvement because over time we'll help identify any gaps in data that you do have. And we have a team of experts, so we can make recommendations about softwares that would maybe better populate your data and help manage that. As long as you're thinking about territories and have something in Salesforce, we can work with that. It does not need to be perfect to work with Fullcast. Thing I will highlight about the data component overall is we are updating Salesforce regularly, daily, if not more frequently than that. What we're doing is pushing ownership to the account team level. And then from the account team, we're able to update any custom field or standard field on the account that you want updated. We also stamp things in Salesforce to make sure you know what's associated to what territory and can report on that information directly in Salesforce.
Very cool. And I see the balancer there. We talked about this a little bit. Salespeople often leave companies because of unfair territories. In RevOps, you get complaints all the time about, oh, my territory is not fair. Person X is getting more than me, or maybe we've got the same number of accounts, but their accounts are better. So, how do you all help people solve for that balancing problem and making sure that things are truly equitable?
That's a great question. Salespeople are missing their quotas. Repetition is another big pain that does come up depending on the organization. We're seeing stats that in the past couple of years, over 90% of organizations are missing their quotas. Sales reps are missing their quotas, even later in the year when you typically expect buying to
Hmm.
spike. These stats help us look at the problem of how can we help RevOps be better equipped in those conversations with sales leaders, with sales reps? X amount of pipeline last month from inbound and I didn't. How is this fair? How do you explain and visualize this when these conversations come up? So Fullcast does provide a balancer. It's a part of our mechanism, and you can pick the metrics you're looking at. In this scenario, we're looking at Enterprise America. Under America in Enterprise, we've got 5 territories. Across these 5 enterprise territories, how balanced are they when it comes to the number of Tier A accounts and the bookings potential in their territory? So if we look at a balancer, they're pretty dang even. It's nice to be able to pull this up and say, hey, I know maybe last week was a little bit of an outlier, but overall, if we're looking at the X time period, this is what it looks like when we break out the 5 different territories in enterprise, that you all have roughly an even amount of bookings potential in your territory as well as Tier A account. Now, this is just an example. Might be, hey, there's buying signals, there is engagement, they're opening our emails, and maybe we're putting together a formula to say this would be considered a Tier A account versus a Tier B account.
Hmm.
The balancer is one piece of it, something that teams really like as well. And it depends if you are in geographic segmentation or not. The balancer is a great way to check on that. You can see in some of these more geographic segmented regions, if you were to go to the map, which you can do with Fullcast, and let's say for this one, we're looking at EMEA. So these areas are highlighted. You can actually pull up a heat map, click on this right here, and pull in metrics to say, where are our new leads coming in from, our MQLs, our inbounds, and then confirm it. Fullcast is going to load up a heat map for you to say, okay, let's say look at Northern Europe here. Are there more inbound leads going into this territory versus this one? And you can heat map this in any way you want, pull in any metric just to make sure at a glance, like between the different territories, even if they're geographic, are they fair? Are they balanced? What is the actual metric, whether it's MQLs, tier A accounts, number of open opportunities, a great way for you to hover over your different territories and get an understanding. But
Yeah.
as a comparison, of course, we have this balancer ready for you.
Yeah, that's cool to be able to see visually on a map since geographies are a typical and common way to quickly see, hey, you're not getting as many MQLs into your region. Well, let's look instead
We
of
have a,
speculate.
we are known for decreasing the number of RevOps tickets that come in by a substantial amount because it's a lot more clear. For example, as a sales leader, if I were looking at accounts, I might have the permission to actually move one and say, hey, this one needs to get moved from this node to this node. You could have your sales team come into Fullcast and not have permission to move or touch anything, but really just to make sure that they are getting a balanced territory. They're able to see how it stacks up against their team's territories. That's up for you to decide if you want your team to be able to or not. But we're big proponents of having as many people as possible in the platform. And it's up to the RevOps team and the admins to decide what permissions your sales leaders, your sales team, your marketing team have when they come into the platform.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you mentioned when I was asking about integrations before, you brought up that one of your largest customers is on Microsoft Dynamics. Who are some example customers that you have, and who's typically a good fit for the Fullcast product?
Yeah, so we are very aware that if you are managing 10, 15 sales reps, this might not be a top priority issue that you have. With that in mind, and with our founders having built this at Salesforce, we are more focused up market around the starting at 50 plus reps is typically where we see companies start to say, all right, this is a bit too cumbersome to be doing in a spreadsheet. Our revenue goals are only growing. We don't want to make errors. We don't want to get drifted off our plan 2 weeks into the year. We want to make sure this is done right and we're actually accountable to this now and need to share with the C-level what we're working on and prove that it works and that we're going to be able to hit the numbers they set for us. So typically 50 plus reps, but more commonly we're sitting around the 100, 200, 300 reps because this is where Fullcast is the most powerful. Just when there's so many reps, moving pieces, overlay teams, new hires, sales engineers, account managers, CSMs, and different levels of sellers and customer facing folks involved in these territories and these quotas. And that's where Fullcast is going to be able to flex its magic the most. So we are focused more up market. However, we want to help teams wherever they're at. If you're sitting at around 20, 30 reps and starting to feel the pain, we're happy to start working with you. And we offer a modular approach to our platform. So if you want to start with territories and then branch into the other segments of the platform, that's completely fine. We try to make it easy for you to get started no matter where you're at.
Yeah, that's very cool. Then outside of the customer base that we talked about just now and who's a good fit, what does the implementation process look like? You talked a little bit about some of these scheduled import export jobs, doing integrations that might be specific to one particular customer. For folks who are out there who are like, hey, I need help with territories, Fullcast looks great. What would you tell them in terms of how quickly they can get up and running and solve those spreadsheet problems that they're experiencing now and actually be on a platform that can help them manage this a lot more effectively?
For a number of our customers, we've got Udemy, Diligent, Sprout Social, we've got Gong as a customer. We just really have focused on building meaning in a space where companies have a lot of reps and they're unable to do this effectively in spreadsheets. So those are some of our customers. The implementation, the way it looks is usually anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks is where we get the bulk of implementation done. Sometimes it takes lesser time for some teams because they're like, hey, here's a document of how we're segmenting this year. These are the product lines we've got. we know all the reps we've got, we know who we're hiring for, and let's hit the ground running. It shortens the discovery period quite a bit. Those are the instances where we might be able to get this all done in a month or 6 weeks max. There are other customers that a big part of the partnership really is help us figure out what's the right way to think about our total addressable market, about our ICP. We did this last year, it didn't work. What do you think about doing it this way? For some customers, discovery might be a bigger piece of it, which might take a couple of months for us to get this stood up, just because we don't want to rush anything. We want it to be set up properly. And to your point, Matt, in the off chance that teams do want import-export jobs from other platforms or databases, or maybe a custom component to their planning or management of the plan, that might be one where we're looking at another 6 to 12 weeks to get fully wrapped up and stood up. But
Yeah.
we like to move quickly. We match your pace. We are very well known and well reviewed for our customer support. Everything right now is just making sure we have really happy, successful customers and that they can all talk to each other and be a network for one another. So looking at anywhere between a month to a few months, depending on what it is you're looking for us to help with.
That's great. We talked through implementation integrations. My next question is around pricing and how you all structure that or look at that. So for folks that are out there evaluating territory management solution like Fullcast, and obviously you have more modules and things there, but you mentioned some folks that go one out of the 4 modules, other folks that go with all 4, somewhere in between. So for pricing, how should folks be looking at that with the Fullcast platform? Is it module by module? Is it based on number of salespeople that they have? How do you all typically charge or kind of structure things on your side?
So we've got it set up in a couple ways. There are teams that see this as a go-to-market cloud. It's a platform helping you from start to finish with RevOps. The most common approach is to do a package where you get elements of the different modules we have: territories, quotas, capacity, routing. So you've got the platform approach and the modular approach. Modular means that you either get territories, targets, capacity, or routing. So you can do a platform approach or a modular approach. Really depends on where you're at and what makes sense for you. Modular does lower the cost of entry because you're just getting one of the functionalities we've got. So that typically makes more sense for smaller teams looking to get started with Fullcast. We make it make sense. Either way, modular or package, it's going to be split between a platform fee and an assignee fee. The reason we've done it this way is we don't want to put businesses in a position where they're like, hey, we only have budget for X amount, so maybe we'll only do this for 100 of our reps instead of 200 of them. We made it a platform fee and a fractional assignee fee. Whoever owns a territory would be counted as an assignee fee, but it's pretty fractional compared to that platform fee, making it easier for teams to include everybody all at once.
Yep, makes total sense. Territories are complicated. We talked about the integrations and the implementation setup. So I'll assume there's no product-led free trial, but I'll still ask for people who want to learn more, get started. Is there a way they can try things out on their own? Do they need to talk to you or someone on the sales team and go through a demo? What's the best way for someone to get in touch?
Yeah, great question. So definitely reach out to us on our website, fullcast.com, or you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. Because this is based on Salesforce data and account data, it's not so easy as just giving a free trial. We would love to do a personalized demo with you, give you remote control access in our demo environment and let you click around. But best way would be to meet with us, get a demo scheduled, and we'll talk through personalized demos, giving you remote control access, all that good stuff. I'd love to show a quick example of building a territory with Fullcast, see how this looks. We're not just helping with the building, we'll help you keep it aligned as you go through. So you'll see that you can carve territories in a few different ways. One that I'd like to highlight today is Smart Plan. Smart Plan is a way that Fullcast leverages AI in their territory carving. To walk through a quick example, if I were to come in here and say, within America Enterprise, I want 5 territories and I want them to cap out at 1,000 accounts per territory. You don't have to put a max, but you can. This is where Smart Plan comes into play. It's a version of AI where you tell us your rules and we apply them on a real-time basis to the data in Salesforce. I might come in here and say, first and foremost, in the balancing criteria is minimizing disruption. What this means is we don't ever want to move accounts out of somebody's name where it's a strategic relationship, or maybe there's a late stage open opportunity. You would use this first step of the balancer to say, make sure we don't touch any of these accounts. So that's where you input that first. The second step is going to be balanced by number of accounts. I want to make sure all 5 of these enterprise territories have an equal number of tier A accounts. And remember, that's something we can check on after in the balancer that we looked at a little bit ago. I want to make sure that each of these has an even number of accounts that are located in New York City or have an annual revenue of $1 billion or higher. These are ways that you can add all the conditions you want to make sure that when your reps come to you and say, I don't have as much opportunity in my territory versus this person, you can say, no, actually you do. And if anything in the data in Salesforce changes to impact that, Fullcast is already giving us yellow dot notifications to say we need to move some accounts around to make sure it stays perfectly even for the different territories. Then we've got the balance by metrics where you can pull MQLs, tier accounts. What metrics are to Fullcast is using your own Salesforce data to tell you a story through a formula. We might put data pieces together from your Salesforce to give you an overall picture, and you could use that picture, for example, bookings potential, to further balance your accounts. The beauty of it is if you did max out your number of accounts, you can put the surplus into an unassigned node ready to top off the territories if anything changes. We can also help you with corporate families. Do you want to keep your child and parent accounts in the same territory? Do you only want to do that if they match a certain criteria? We can get detailed and make sure that throughout the year, your reps are happy. They've got fair and balanced territories. Their quotas make sense along with those territories. You have proof to back it up. You have the progress to plan. And you have this little co-pilot with you saying, hey, so-and-so just disqualified 10 accounts. We need to top off their territory with 10 more accounts, and making sure that you're addressing your total market.
And I love how it also answers the question that everyone has, which is, how are you using AI in your product today? Celena, thank you very much for giving us the rundown and walking us through that. Platform looks awesome. I can totally see how it solves headaches and helps RevOps folks, companies like Degree, Gong, and Udemy, some of your customers. You mentioned to everyone checking this out, learn more at fullcast.com. Ping Celena, who's on LinkedIn. Her and the rest of the Fullcast team are also in the RevOps Co-op Slack group. Don't be a stranger. Go and say hi, and definitely check out the Fullcast platform because it can certainly solve some of your territory management problems.
Awesome. And I was fortunate to attend your RevOps AF conference in San Diego last year. I had a great time. Very excited by the network we're building with y'all. Thank you.
Yeah. And I look forward to seeing you and the crew in New Orleans this year. To everyone out there listening, if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, go and do that now. RevOps AF, May 2025 in New Orleans. But with that, Celena, that's all I got for you. Thank you very much for walking us through the Fullcast platform. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Talk soon.
Yeah, thank you.